Fam. We are back with another episode of Unfiltered by Symphonic. This is the series where we chop it up with your favorite independent artists who are at the top of their game. Today, I'm going to be chatting with J.Lately. He's an MC making music out of the Bay Area with a real soulful style and that laid-back Cali flow that we all love. Jay's really got a gift for making music that makes you think and vibe out at the same time, a true conscious rapper. He's also toured with legends like Zion I, Locksmith, A+, and he's really built a sound that is thoughtful and effortlessly cool. But we're not here to listen to me, so without further ado, let's get into it with J.Lately. So Jay, tell us a little bit about your upbringing and how that's shaped who you are as an MC today.
I think my upbringing has caused me to really find my own voice and my own identity as an artist. I grew up in a small town called Sebastopol, California. I was born in Oakland, but moved up there when I was at a young age. And there wasn't really like a hip hop scene or anything around that I could really latch onto or identify. I was just kind of like out there by myself and taking a bunch of influence from all over, but I didn't really have anything that I felt like I could like identify and, really replicate in any way, in an authentic way. So it really made me look inside myself and find my own voice and find my own identity as an artist. And at the beginning, I think that was really hard for me because I was kind of looking for something else that could give me an example of what I should be doing. But in the long run, I think it really was an asset for me because I really had to like look inside myself and find that voice for myself and find out exactly who I really was as an artist. And I think that's really paid off for me in the long term.
Yeah, totally. I think honestly that makes what you're doing all the more important, right? For the young MCs out there that might see themselves in you. Are there any musicians in your family or anyone else that's kind of influenced your music?
There's no actual like musicians who are pursuing it seriously. I think my dad likes to think of himself as a musician. He used to play guitar and get together with his friends and have jam sessions that he would bring me to and stuff. But never really like pursued it or kept it up. But I always grew up with like tons of music in my household. My dad was always playing music. I have like tons of memories of us driving around in the car singing oldie songs together and things like that. And my mom was always really into dance, so she was always playing music and used to dance with me in the living room and take me to her, dance classes or studio sessions, and I'd get to run around while they were doing their thing. And so there was always this music around. I have an older brother who was the one who really like introduced me to rap music, and I used to hear him playing it all the time, and then I'd sneak into his room and go steal his CDs without him knowing and go listen to them, and probably listening to a bunch of stuff that my parents didn't want me listening to at that age. But there was all this musical influence in my family, even though there wasn't really anyone who was actively pursuing it.
Wow. Shout out to older brothers who let you steal their CDs, right? But that's awesome. You've obviously put a lot of work and energy into your music. I mean, it's obvious, not just from the music itself, but your branding, the way you roll things out. So tell me, I'm curious, what do you think it is that determines an artist who's maybe just pursuing a hobby versus someone who's really, looking at this as their actual career?
Yeah, I have a ton of friends who are extremely talented who I see that all the time, where they're not really willing to take the steps that it takes to really pursue it as a career, even though they love music and have so much talent. And I think, for us as artists, oftentimes we gravitate towards like artistic paths because we think that it's going to mean we don't have to do all those things that we would have to do if we were to go down another career path. But I always tell people, like, you're going to have to do those things 2 or 3 times as much if you're trying to pursue a career in music or in art than you would in other lanes, because I think, there's so much uncertainty in the music business, and there's so much less of a clear path that's been set out for you to follow in order to advance. Like in some of these other careers, like you might go to college and then you get this degree and then you get an internship here and then you get this entry level job and then you get a promotion and there's this clearly set out path for you to work your way up. Whereas in the music business, it's so random and kind of all over the place, and there's not these clear paths for you. So like you're really going to have to dedicate yourself to that pursuit on a level that you wouldn't have to in one of these other careers, and you're really going to have to approach it in a professional and career-based manner to see those results from your art.
So I know you've been doing this music thing for a minute now. I'm curious if you can share with us maybe a time, a situation that kind of just rocked you as an artist and made you really kind of reevaluate if this is the path for you.
Yeah, earlier on in my career, I came to a point where I had like finally really started to see things take off, and I was, making money off features, and I was making money off shows, and making money off merch sales and stuff. And at that time, I was working a day job, and I thought to myself, like, all right, I've reached that point where I get to dive in fully and be a professional musician full time. I'm going to quit my day job. I'm going to fully focus on music. It's going to give me so much more time to actively approach this and take my career to the next level. And after doing that for a little while, like I realized how kind of like detrimental to my music career that actually was to be so dependent on selling a feature or doing a show, that I was having to take opportunities that weren't actually beneficial to my career in the long term. I was having to do things just to get a check through my music that were not actually in the best interest of myself as an artist. And I had to take a step back and go back to working a day job. And it really kind of, that rocked me because it felt like such a huge step backwards at first. And like, okay, I was going to become a full-time musician and now I'm having to go back to work a day job. And that did really rock me at first. But in the long term, I realized like what a good decision that was to go back to a situation where I had financial stability coming from an outside source. And then I was able to make those decisions musically that were actually in the best interest of my career for the long term. And I, had that money to invest in myself to really take myself to the next level instead of just trying to survive as a musician and kind of grind it out.
Oof, yeah, I think that's a reality. Which that kind of brings me to my next question, which is about your work ethic, right? So we all know it's so hard to be an artist today. You're not just making music, you're doing all the business, the behind the scenes, the marketing, the promotion. And, as we said before, this is a business. So tell us a little bit, how would you describe your work ethic as an artist? And yeah, how is it that you approach your music?
Yeah, I think my work ethic is like what I use to really keep me grounded as an artist and to keep me focused. Like, I think there's so many things in the music industry that are unpredictable and outside of your control. Like you might think you made the best song and the best video and you put it out there and it might not be received that way by others. And, art and music is completely subjective, and what the way others receive it is completely outside of your control. But I think of it as like the only thing that's really inside my control is how hard I work at this and what I dedicate to this. And so I use that to keep me grounded and keep me on a path forward when things might start to feel a little daunting, or I might start to get down about certain things. And I just make sure that like every single day of my life, I'm putting in that time to advance my music career in the same way I would have to put that time in for another type of job. Like you're not going to get that promotion by skipping 3 days in a row. Like it's just not going to happen. So if you want to receive that musical promotion, you need to put those hours in, and they need to be focused and dedicated hours.
Yeah, it really is about just putting in the work, treating this like a real business, and obviously that's something you understand. Look where it's taken you. So, thank you so much, J.Lately. Thanks for pulling up, chatting with us today, sharing so many words of wisdom. Thanks everybody for listening in. This is Unfiltered with Symphonic. I'm your host, Laura Katana. And hey, if you're feeling the convo, hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss the next one. We've got more interviews coming your way real soon. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.